Hello and welcome to Dateline New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines of the stories that make our community tick. Well, one headline, this recent headline, was 5 new Alders elected to New Haven's Board of Alders, our legislative body. And today, and then again on January 6th, we're going to meet them, see what's in store for them, see who the new faces are, and who's going to help put in that volunteer time to make the laws for our city. Today we have Magda Natal, who's the new Alder in Ward 16, and Amanda Martinelli, who's the new Alder in Ward 8. Welcome both of you, and thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
So how's it feel, be elected? We talked a little bit before. Is it, you feel nervous, you feel excited, little mixture? What do you think?
I feel a little bit of both.
And if you can come close to the mic, if you don't mind.
I'm very nervous and also very excited. I'm excited to really see the inner workings and of the city and see how we can help, but also very, very nervous as I have never done this before.
I always wonder, like, to be an Alder seems pretty exciting because, you know, you read about how decisions are made in the world and you get to make them in your own community and see on the ground floor the decisions that really affect people most in their lives, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, how about you? Nervous? Like, do you feel you're going to, like, blow up the city by mistake?
I'm excited. It is a mixture of, different emotions, and it's exciting. It's kind of this new adventure that I'm taking on, and a huge responsibility to care for my neighborhood, right? In a place that I grew up in, so it means a lot to me. But it's scary. It's it's a lot to take on. It's a little overwhelming, and just kind of navigating your way. And
but there are 30 people there, and they do kind of show you the ropes.
Yeah.
So what are you most excited about doing as an Alder? Like, what kind of made you want to run, and what are you excited to do now that you got the gig?
I think for me it's responding to the constituents' needs, being someone that will listen to people's concerns and try to address issues as they arise. A lot of people, want clean streets and want speed bumps, and right, you hear all
I love the way that some
things,
people get
right?
so want the speed bumps, and other people get so mad at you about the speed bumps. That's one thing about Alder. People get mad at you no matter what you do.
Right? No, you're absolutely right about that. Absolutely right. Well, one person is like, and I want a higher speed bump. I'm like, oh, I don't. I'll figure this out as I go, right?
How about you, Amanda? What are you focused on?
I would say community development, and I really ran my campaign on a community that says hello together. I've lived in Worcester Square about 10 years, and I've seen the dynamics change a lot. We have a lot of new people, which is wonderful, but everybody kind of keeps their head down. And so I want a community that lifts their head and says hello to their neighbor.
That's so interesting, too, because I think, tell me if I'm wrong, I think it might be the most concentrated growth in New Haven is that area between, like, almost by the park in Worcester Square, and then almost to downtown. You had those 4 either empty lots or, like, small buildings they knocked down. And all of a sudden, you got thousands of people living in 4 new apartment complexes. That's in your ward, right?
It's actually across the street.
Oh, it's not in your ward?
No,
none
it's
of it.
right across the street.
Oh, where does your ward end?
On Olive Street there.
Oh, that's interesting. So are there a lot of new people in your ward?
There are, absolutely. But obviously across the street is very close to us. So they all come to the park with their dogs, lots of new dogs in my neighborhood. My neighborhood is very dog-centric.
And one of those buildings was actually marketed as a dog-run building. They have the dog run across the street. Do you have a dog?
I do have a dog.
What kind?
He's 14 years old. And on his last 2 birthdays, I did movie nights in the park to celebrate his birthday.
That was interesting because, you talk about how someone become an Alder. I know both of you have been so involved in your community. That's sort of how grassroots leadership develops, is from people who just show up and know their neighbors and hear what they're up to. So you, Amanda, you did 2 movie nights. There used to be movie nights at Square Park, which is really one of the great parks in New Haven. Like those trees, they're amazing. And you brought back movie night, and you made it about dogs.
I did.
Tell me about that and why. And again, if you get a little closer to the mic.
I brought it back because one of my first years here was the last year that they had done the movie night in the park, and I loved it. I couldn't believe it was just such a great community event. And then COVID, I think, is why it went to the wayside. But I'm on the Historic Worcester Square Association board. I'm their vice president. well, technically, I ended on December 14th, as I will be ex officio on their board. And so, one of the big things when I started on there was I wanted to bring our community together. And so, when we were planning it, it was around October. My dog's birthday is October 4th. So, I said, let's do it on Espresso's birthday. My dog's name is Espresso Bean Martinelli. A perfect fitting name for the neighborhood.
What kind of dog?
And so,
What kind of dog is Espresso Bean?
oh, I'm sorry. He's a rat terrier toy poodle mix. So he's little. He's about 20 pounds. And he has my entire heart.
So is it true that a 14-year-old dog is like 98 years in people life, or is that a myth?
Well, you know what? He was doing great and acting like a puppy up until about 14. On his 14th birthday, he also got diabetes. And so we're now navigating a new dog. He has gone blind. So I've been dealing with a lot these past couple of months.
Yeah.
Really trying to figure it out.
So you brought back the movie night and you decided to combine it with dog movies and bring your dog to the movie. What made you think of that, besides the fact that it was his birthday coming up?
When we were planning it, we were planning for October. And I said, I was like, I was on the executive committee. So when it was just the 3 or 4 of us that were planning it. And I said, well, this would be a great day to celebrate on his birthday. I was the one that was leading the initiative. And so we picked All Dogs Go to Heaven, and we showed that. And about 40 people came, and it was a lovely turnout. And then this year, we also did it on Espresso's birthday, October 4th. We showed Soul this time, and
I love Soul.
About 50 to 60 people came.
So I asked you this for a reason.
Okay.
And the reason is, it's interesting that if you're a dog walker, the way you get to know other dog walkers, right? Like, in a way, we live in a world now where people don't always know their neighbors, right? Or that well. You don't hang the way you used to, right? As a leading question, I mean, is dog walking a way that in a changing Wooster Square might be some people finding each other?
I believe so.
Like, did you meet a lot of your neighbors because you walk Espresso?
I do. And really what happens is you actually know the dog better than the person because you're such dog people that, you kind of, and then you go, oh, okay. And then my dog is a little different. He kind of makes me antisocial, I tell him, because he usually barks his little head off if somebody talks to me.
Leave Amanda alone. She's mine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, strangers have approached me and said, that dog really loves you. I'm like, I know. He's obsessed. So he, in other people, absolutely. When I first moved in, there was this group of people that would congregate in the middle of the park with all of their dogs around noon every single day. And they would all play. They all got along so wonderful. And I was always so jealous because my dog would never let me do that. But it is central to our neighborhood, is bringing your dog there. And, we are a dog-friendly whole neighborhood. The coffee shops allow the dogs, especially Caden's. I believe their sign says something like great coffee and milk bones. And so, we are very dog centric.
And what does that mean? What does that say about a neighborhood if dogs play an important part? Does it say something about the potential to have a neighborhood that defies the modern trend of people not knowing their neighbors? Or am I reading too much into this?
No, I love this. No, I agree with you. I think having a dog centric neighborhood is really having a loving neighborhood. And we want to take care of all of the dogs that are there. And like I said, they're all always walking around the park. And so it really brings people out of their houses, even on days like today where it's raining and it's cold and you still go out. So you still get to say hello to your neighbors. So the neighbors that know me and know my dog, they know that he'll bark his little head off. So we just we wave from afar.
So it does sound though that you didn't necessarily meet a lot of your neighbors through Espresso. You just met their dogs.
I met their dogs.
But that's not how you met more neighbors.
That is not how I met more neighbors. No, like I said, my dog specifically did not allow that. But how I did meet my neighbors was going out and knocking on their doors and saying hello to them that way. And that was probably the most effective way.
We're talking to 2 of the 5 new alders elected for the upcoming session starting January 1st. Magna Talent, Fairhaven's Ward 16. Amanda Martinelli, owner of Espresso Martinelli. Espresso Bean Martinelli. Yeah. Ward 8, Wooster Square, Jocelyn Square, Mill River, and Slivers of Fairhaven, the Annex. One of the more gerrymandered wards in New Haven. Magda, you grew up in Fairhaven?
I did.
And what made you? Now you're a you're a teacher of English second language at Cross.
Yes. teaching.
What got you at this point in your life to decide you wanted to be an alder, an elected official?
I think it was something that I always wanted to do. I'm a political science major, right?
Where did you
and
study political science?
Buffalo State. And it was just something I wanted to do years ago, and I had gotten involved in um, some organizing back then, and about 20 something years ago, and
What kind of organizing?
organizing for campaigns and walking for Johnny
Martinez,
Martinez.
yeah. The
Yeah,
late
and
Johnny
so
Martinez. Yeah.
um, and so it kind of stuck with me, and it was just something kind of in the back of my head that it was like it's not time. And I think that recently it just felt like, if I'm going to do it, I think this is the time.
How did your
Kids are
interest in political
older.
science shape the career you did go into with teaching?
It's funny. My last year of college, I took on this job that the college paid me for to go and work at this school, and it was an inner city school. And I worked with this amazing teacher, and I would watch him in the classroom, and I was like, this is it. This is what I want
Who was
to
the
do.
teacher?
Um, I don't remember his name. I don't remember his name.
And then you've been teaching ever since.
But I'm sorry.
You've been teaching ever since.
So in one way, shape, form, or other, I was teaching ever since. But I went back to school and got my master's in education.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
interesting
it
to me.
kind of stuck with me, and it wouldn't kind of let go. The same way I think running for alder over time, just kind of sort of thing in the back of my mind that eventually it was like
You
I'm
scratched that
ready
itch. So, it's interesting to me that you teach English as a second language at Cross, which, if I'm not mistaken, might be the school where the most new arrivals come all throughout the year, not just from Latin America, but around the world. There's a lot of immigrants coming into that school. And Fairhaven's Ward 16 might have the highest concentration of at least Latino immigrants in the.
This is a conversation I was just having yesterday that I kind of wanted to get a sense of a little more of the demographics and the makeup of the neighborhood.
Well, 16 is clearly one of the loci of
Yeah,
the city for
16th I
immigration.
think has
And
the
I remember
most.
talking about Brown. He'd say, like, every week we have someone new who doesn't speak English who comes right to Cross. They
So
just
there was last year, for instance, we were getting students every day. For the
and has
past
that
couple of
changed because
years,
of the
we were
Trump
getting students
crackdown, I
every
guess?
day.
Yeah.
But since the new administration, that has really slowed down.
So now you're
significantly.
working more with kids who have been there for a year?
So there's still kids coming in, and we still have. We have an IA, an international academy, where kids that need English sheltered language or sheltered content, and they get the support.
So both as an alder in a neighborhood like Fairhaven and as a teacher of English second language and English composition across, you are very much on the front lines of dealing with immigration.
I am.
And what do you expect to bring to that? Either how you're doing a job now, given the new environment, do you find yourself being a counselor to kids kind of informally because of what's going on, or how is the
So we did a
crackdown
lot of
affected you?
trainings. We've brought lawyers to come and speak to the kids and sort of explain what's happening. And
I imagine it's kind of a scary time for those kids.
I've taken a course, Train the Trainer, where it's like kind of training for situations. But in light of the things that are happening, you want to believe that the things that you're teaching them can work, right? With the ICE, and it's just a really difficult kind of thing to navigate. But we were spending a lot of time, I think last year, towards the end of the year, really, really talking to the kids. We have Know Your Rights flyers all over the place. We have little cards for them in different languages, what to say, what to do, if a situation were to occur. And so we have all this information for them. And we spent a lot of time training them.
Were you had you been the teacher of Estras, the kid who got taken by ICE but then was released?
I was Estras teacher, yes.
And how did you feel when that all happened? How did that affect
I
you?
really, it was really emotional for me. it was really kind of like, if is this the start of something much much bigger? And I think it was a really painful um, realization that, right, it's coming for us here too, right? And so you're just watching all this stuff that's happening throughout the nation, and that it's trickling right
How did it
in
affect
here.
the rest of your class or your frame of mind in class every day?
I think that when I came in the beginning of the year, I came in really wondering what are the ways in which I can protect my students, right? Like if ICE were to come into the building, right? And these are conversations that we have um, with coworkers and stuff, but my colleagues. But I think there's a fear. There's a fear, and for me, it's really about learning a lot more about what's happening with some of the organizations that are really doing the groundwork
Good work. Yeah.
and the good work. Yeah. And so I've been attending some meetings and just kind of getting just a better idea of what the needs are, to be a voice for the voiceless. I think that's
How about as an alder? How's that translate for immigration? How do you see issues coming to you? I mean, there's going to be a question at some point, right? Whether we change some of our policies or forfeit federal money. We're fighting back as a city. We're going to court,
in
federal
a sister
court.
city,
Yeah.
right? Like
But any thoughts as an alder, how you might bring immigrant concerns to the board of alders?
I really think it's about being informed and letting others know what's happening, and um, I think just making people aware and just being a voice for it. I
Mhm.
don't. Um,
All right, we're talking
there's
to Magda Natal, the new alder in alder elect in Ward 16 of Fairhaven, and Amanda Martinelli, owner of Espresso Bean Martinelli in Ward 8, Worcester Square. So your ward, Worcester Square, is the heart of it, which is sort of like one of the model urban like neighborhoods, that have history to it, lots of energy and new people coming. You also have Jocelyn Square, which is kind of an interesting neighborhood. It's a mini neighborhood there, got cut off by a highway. It's got its own square. It's got housing around it, and then it kind of ends as Fairhaven comes. Any thoughts about the challenges there, or anything you heard about there in Jocelyn Square?
Oh, absolutely. I went to Jocelyn Square many times in my canvassing days, and I'm going to continue that work. The issue is that they feel separated from all the other wards.
Which they kind of are. You
because
got
they
the
are.
I-91 highway,
Yeah.
you got State Street, you got the railroad trestle bridge before you enter into Fairhaven. On the other side, you kind of have this no man's land over the railroads as you're going east. It's kind of interesting.
yeah, James.
I mean,
and
south.
Haven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, when I was talking with the neighbors, and their biggest concerns was, that um, they don't have a sense of community there, and
How's the dog situation?
the dogs. Well, what they do have there is this beautiful little water park.
Yep.
In the center.
In
of
Johnson
it.
Square Park. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's housing all around it.
And they
so,
built sort of new apartments there by the highway. I guess I'm saying new. I'm showing my age. That was 80s and 90s. And then you have that older housing that's down the hill. You kind of feel like it's its own world. It's so shut off because one of the roads was cut off by the highway in the 60s. And a lot of slumlords own property there, right? I mean, that's what we go there usually for the slumlord situation. Any thoughts on that? Have you heard much about that? The Mandy Management Ocean, that kind of stuff?
I heard many thoughts on that. People feel trapped. They feel that their housing is not affordable, and how can we fight
So it's
that?
about affordability. It's not about conditions.
It was both. It was both, because their rents are going up and their landlords aren't fixing anything. And so, how if they're paying more, they feel justified that they should
And
have
where are they
proper
paying
housing.
more? Down the hill or up by those newer apartments by the highway?
Honestly, across everywhere I went, everybody had told me that, unless they were in a co-op, where obviously it's different. Affordability was number one when I was knocking on their doors.
And was that true elsewhere in the ward?
I'm sorry.
Is that true elsewhere in the ward?
Absolutely.
So affordability is a big word, a big keyword now in politics throughout the country. How's that playing out? Is it rent? What were they telling about affordability? And what do they want from you? Like, you're not going to fix the country. What did they want their alder to do about affordability? Or just listen to them is important?
I think just listening to them is important and knowing their concerns. And so when we are doing the work, we can have that at the forefront. I'm not affordability is across the nation.
Can you
very
remember a
important
moment
thing.
like a particular person? You don't have to give the name, like a person telling you a story or something you saw when you were campaigning that drove home to you how affordability is so central?
That I'm sorry.
Can you remember a day you're on the campaign trail where someone told you something about affordability that made you say, "Oh, this is why this is so central. Here's how it affects people."
Yes, specifically in Jocelyn Square, there was a young gentleman that actually wanted to form a tenants union, and that's what he wanted to talk to me about. And he felt he was going to be retaliated against for trying to do that in here in New Haven, but he has support of other neighbors, and that to me was very central
He
to.
lives in a complex where there are a bunch of,
Mhm.
and did you know there are all these, as you know, there are all these tenant unions that have formed. We strengthened the protections for them. So is this? Did you play some kind of role in connecting this person, or?
I did. So I spoke with the current alder, and we uh, tried to get everybody connected, and because that is the way that they want to fight back on this, and I fully support
And what they want to fight back on specifically? What are the issues?
affordability. The rents keep going up, and they're not fixing anything. He specifically said he was there for 8 years, and nothing in his apartment has been renovated, fixed, painted, anything of that nature. But his rent has gone up by $500 from in the 8 years that he's been there.
How
And
big apartment was it?
I did not ask him that.
Yeah. Well, that's
um,
and is the condition bad? Like, does it need repairs?
it needs repairs,
And
absolutely.
which
The
do you, which
flat.
part of Just Square is this? Is this
It was
those?
right across the street from the park.
So those newer ones across, hugging the highway.
Yes.
I always wonder what's like to sleep there. Do
Well,
they
I
have
didn't
good
sleep there, so
soundproofing?
I couldn't
wonder if
tell you that.
So it's that complex, and is that a one rental complex, or is it a condo?
It's a condo.
So why would they have a landlord if it's a condo?
Well, they're still rented.
Oh, the condo owners rent them,
Mhm.
but it's not one owner.
No, not that. It's not like a housing authority. No, it's not one owner.
So you'd have a tenant union. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have a condo board that kind of owns this. So the tenant union would be formed for the condo board.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's really interesting. So we're going to keep an eye on that.
I think so.
What's the status?
You know what? This was about a month ago, and so
I'm so interested in hearing
yeah,
about
this
that.
is brand new, so I'll have to come back and tell you how.
And
how
it's
going.
important, yeah.
It's very
And so tell me, Magda, what kind of things did you hear in the doors? Can you remember a day when you were campaigning where you heard something that said, "This really drives home to me such an important issue that I need to be working on"?
Affordability is huge. I did hear a lot of folks telling me, I can't find a place to live. Can you help me with housing? Can you help me with, and so there is a huge need. But people are also concerned with jobs, right? I found that prices that are skyrocketing, like I can't afford to live. And so just that general, right, affordability to be able to afford the roof over your head, the food on your table, right, and all the costs that come with it. I heard a lot of complaints about that.
Do you remember any particular interactions you had that stuck in your mind while you were campaigning?
I think that I ran into a few folks that talked about living with their elderly parents and sort of like, having kind of that difficulty of like caring for their parents. I saw some of that. But I think there were a lot of different stories. I had, folks tell me, I wanted my sidewalk fixed, and someone that I know went and fixed it and was like, but it's not right. It's not right. You gotta and I was like, oh, and so that idea of like, what you do and don't do and how that impacts sometimes. But there's just so many different. There's such a great diversity.
And there's also a Fairhaven working group, right? So all there's a kind of I kind of get the sense there's a team in Fairhaven. Frank Redente, Caroline Smith, Sarah Miller. It seems like they're kind of on it in Fairhaven as a group working together. You'll be not on your own there talking about Fairhaven.
They have Fairhaven issues.
The community school cut was tough. Fairhaven got all this money from federal government to have an after-school program for like families and kids in the schools. The Trump administration just cut that. I don't know if you saw that a week ago. So starting January, all of a sudden hundreds of kids and families are going to have these programs taken away. It's kind of interesting.
I did read something that their school's getting cut.
So there's citywide issues too. One of them, which is zoning in terms of density and how do we build more housing and things like that. Any thoughts on whether we have outdated zoning in the city, as some people say, or whether it's important to preserve rules about parking and setbacks from streets and density? Any thoughts on any of that? Okay, you don't need to. You're just getting started, right?
It's very hard for me to hear you, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can't hear me?
I can't hear you either.
Sometimes I can't.
Really?
Like, I'm not always clear on what you're asking me.
Oh,
I
no.
apologize.
Oh,
Now you hear me
there
better?
it goes. Now I can hear
now
you.
I can.
Okay.
Okay.
I've just inherited how the
I didn't-
knobs work. I'm sorry
I
about
couldn't
that.
hear you
So
at all.
zoning. Any thoughts? So no thoughts that you're going to be learning about zoning, because that's when it's just coming up in the Alders, the ultimate zoning authority, and whether we have outdated rules or not that make it harder to have enough housing.
Please.
I mean, no, I just know that there's several projects coming up in the neighborhood in which they're looking for variance and zoning. We have, River Street, lots of industrial buildings where people want to.
They've been working on that
develop.
for decades. Yeah, the old
Right.
factories.
Right, and they want to change the zoning so to accommodate a daycare center, for instance, right now. Which one of the buildings burned recently? So, yeah, I think that's an issue that's going to keep coming up.
And then safe injection sites did not go over well in Fairhaven, though some of the Alders were for it, and that's where you got a place off the street, away from the public, where people who are addicted using drugs can get safe needles and get help if they want the help. And also there are people there in case there are overdoses. And some people felt that would bring more drug-related crime in the neighborhood, and other people thought it would manage it well in a humane way. Any thoughts on that?
That is a very challenging situation, and I think the best way is to say, I'm sorry. The best way for me to think about this is what is best for the community. And I know on the doors, I did hear some complaints of people using drugs directly in front of their housing, and it's in the middle of the street. I was completely shocked by it. It was actually right across the street from Fairhaven Community Health Center, and she would be chasing people away because she has children and she doesn't want her children to see that. And
That's rough, yeah.
It's a rough situation. So I can't say that I am for or against these sites, but I am for a changed approach and see a more of a trial and error, because right now the system is broken the way that it is working. And if this can be helpful, then I would say, the problem of drugs is not going away anytime soon. So how do we manage that?
It's difficult. This is a really complicated, right, layered problem that needs to be addressed in many ways. I think that Fairhaven has become a place where people come to, right, because there are resources. And I know Ward 16 suffers greatly from a lot of drug use, a lot of alcoholics in the neighborhood, and there's seeing a rise in mental illness, right? So a lot of folks that are walking around, and clearly there's an issue. So there's a need of more resources. I think that putting them right smack in the neighborhood does create a problem for many of the constituents. I heard that a lot while knocking on doors. It was a big issue about, well, they're just giving them stuff, and it's like welcoming it here, and we don't want it here. And so I did hear from many folks that they were not comfortable with having it right smack in front of them, or a van pulling up in Key Food, for instance, and people are shopping, and now there's all these,
What about an off-street
folks.
thing where, in back of a building where people went? Do you think that would still be concerned? People coming to and fro?
I think the concern is that it's like making a space for it where you can just stay, right? And you can um, live in a place where, we're going to accommodate the use. And so there's, I believe that people need help. That's not to say that, addicts don't need help as well, or that there isn't resources that we're in desperate need of. But again, I think it's a lot, right? It's housing, it's um, mental health services, right? It's really, um, I think that the need is much bigger than just, we're giving out paraphernalia or giving things out for folks to be safe users. I do think that that it's not a bad thing, right? And passing out the Narcan kits, right? I think those things are important to save lives. Um, but how it's done, and perhaps in a place where it's not in front of the whole neighborhood, or right where it's clearly visible, is a much better option than having it on Grand Avenue, right? Or spots where people are really, there's dense, high traffic areas.
We're talking to newly elected alders Magna Tal and Amanda Martinelli on Dateline New Haven. What about free buses? In New York, there was this, they would talk about affordability, and the mayor was elected saying, "We want to make all the buses free." In New Haven, a state rep was very much for transportation attention. He used to be on the committee role. Lamar said there wasn't the same demand here. We tried it during COVID. People don't think it was that important. He thought it was more important to take the limited money we have to work on improving routes. Any thoughts on free public buses?
Never thought about it really till now.
Okay.
But
Well, let's see about the schools.
I'm all for free buses, why not, right?
Yeah, if we can fund them.
Right.
How about thoughts about the schools? Since how long have you been teaching in the schools?
I've been teaching about 7 or 8 years now.
Where'd you teach before that?
I taught before Cross, I was at Fairhaven School, and I subbed for a long time while I finished my certification. And I've worked in almost just about every school in New Haven.
Oh, you have. So what do you think needs to be done? Because, as the alders, you don't do a lot with the schools, but you do approve the school budget, and you get to have hearings on issues. And it really, I believe, was the Board of Alders issues that began the pressure to change the way we teach reading, which was an important change in the last, half decade. Any thoughts from your experience in New Haven schools, or what needs to happen to improve public education in New Haven?
There's so many things. I think that
We have a plurality now of Latino students, soon going to be a majority. That's a change.
that is a change. We look at teaching one teacher in the classroom, and that's what we've had. And I mean, co-teaching, I think, is really the way to go. Kids have just the needs are great, and I think that the levels are so wide, and how do you teach a kid to read, and now you've got a kid that's super advanced, right? And find a platform where you can give them all what they need to grow and to progress and to improve. And so we can keep putting money. We always need money, right? Like, we need better buildings.
Well, you're cross. You got the ceilings
right?
leaking.
And we don't have a pool.
But you have leaky ceilings, yeah.
But I think that there is a need to kind of revisit, right, how teaching is done. I think it's a new generation. Kids are changing, sitting in seats all day. Like, kids need to move and be more hands-on and interactive. And
Have you incorporated any of that into teaching English as a second language or English composition?
so I just got my computer cards, So I am trying to play with different programs. I just got a new program, and so I'm trying to play with those programs and see how I can gauge their learning and to see if I can differentiate in a much easier way where kids can kind of make progress based on where they're at. And so it's something that, and it takes time, right? Like I'm new to it as well. And so a little practice.
So obviously you bring a lot of
So-
experience in immigration with education to the board. Do you have an interest, Amanda, like what kind of committees you want to be in, what kind of issues you want to focus on citywide?
Yeah, absolutely. Community development would be one. That has been my focus for the last few years. Um,
Well, you've worked in the nonprofit world, right? You worked at the Archdiocese Connecticut Catholic Foundation.
I did.
And what did you do there?
I was their director of operations of their foundation, and so I was there about 7 years.
And when you say community development, how does that specific, what kind of development did you work on that you're interested in? Like, is it housing? Is it social programs? What?
Social programs, mostly social programs. Also food banks and homeless shelters, and
So you want to work on
funding
social
those.
services?
Mhm.
And that's in your ward's got a lot of them. You got the warming center, you have the shelter that it's closing for older kids.
Mhm.
What kind of do you have any specific thoughts on what you want to focus on there?
Focus on
Like on terms of social services, something like to see happen, or something you'd like to dig into, investigate.
absolute homeless shelters are probably going to be my number one. We have a very large homeless crisis, especially in my ward and in Fairhaven and really across New Haven, and that is probably going to be my number one focus.
And any
starting-
thoughts about what we can do with homes? Tough problem. Like I really
Tough problem.
believe. I mean, my bias is that New Haven cares a lot. We do a lot more than other cities. A lot of people come here, and it's really sad they have no place to live, and then the places fill up, and they go to the train station, and it's not working great for anybody really. You have the encampments. Any thoughts on how we can work through this?
I think more developing people when they're in the shelter and trying to get them to have a skill set or things of that nature. There's foundations that can help provide skill sets either in the kitchen or other areas that they can then try to build a life instead of just having them being in the homeless shelter for a little while and then going back on the streets. How can we develop them while they're there? How can we provide them with access to learn some job skills, some real job skills?
That's a good idea. But you do. The Pastor Washington's doing a great job there on grants. She's
She
filling a lot of
is.
gaps. Any work you've done there in the warming shelters or?
So she was actually who I was thinking of when I was saying that, because she is doing a wonderful job. Within 90 days, she really tries to get people out into the world or give them skill sets, give them what they need. She provides them with everything that they need, and so when they go back out on the streets in 90 days, they are a better person.
But then, meanwhile,
there.
down the street, when they come out of prison, they used to go to Project Moore, and then without any of us knowing, something just kind of fell apart there. Do you know what happened with that?
I do not know. I do not know what happened there.
Because
But-
reentry, yeah, that was a.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of there's Jacques Pepin's foundation also does reentry, but he does it
Mhm.
through chef skills and things of that nature, so that they can go and work in a kitchen and have very fulfilling lives after. And so.
Well, it sounds like you both have a lot on your plate, a lot of ideas you're going to bring in energy to the Board of Alders. I hope it's a great experience for both of you. I know that you'll have a lot of colleagues who've been there longer who will show you the ropes and include you in everything they do. And thanks for coming on Dateline New Haven and
Thank
giving
you.
us a little preview. And
Thank
I
you
hope
for
you have a
having us.
wonderful holiday.
You as well.
So you're done now with school, right? It's closed for the.
Yes, a little break, so I
All right.
can
Well deserved.
rejuvenate.
right. Well, thanks to Harry Droz behind the controls, and thanks to Magna Tal and Amanda Martinelli, the new Alders elect in Ward 16 and Ward 8. And thanks everyone for hanging with us this year on Dateline New Haven. It's been a great year. Looking forward to another one in 2026. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It'd Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day, all night, and all year long on WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.